Currently, I'm reading this book called Flow by Mihaly. I have no clue how to pronounce his last name. He's Eastern Europe of some type, Eastern European. And it's about happiness. It's what's really interesting. So it's called The Psychology of Optimal Experience. And what I realized is he actually put a name to something that I had discovered probably 5 or 6 years ago, because I would say the past 5 or 6 years have probably been the happiest times of my life. And I couldn't really explain why. All I knew was I was doing things that I was passionate about, particularly because I found postural restoration. And I was just content. I had done a lot of reading, a lot of Buddhist psychology, a lot of reading about happiness in general. And I had realized that ever since I had quit my old IT job and got out of the corporate life, even though my body was still in pain, I was actually just more content overall. So I've been reading this book, and one of the things about flow is you get into flow when you are doing something that's challenging, something that you're interested in, but something that you are up to the task for, in the sense that this activity isn't too difficult for you. So it's not anxiety inducing, nor is it too simple for you, because you would get bored with that. So what I found in my own life is that I was finding things that I was passionate about and learning about, and it was enabling me to get into these flow states. Now I'm also involved in the Latin dance scene, so I've been teaching salsa for a lot of, maybe 10 years. And so in that respect also, I also get into flow. So basically I'm getting into flow as much as possible without even, I was doing that and I still am. I didn't even know there was a name for it until I found this book. But one of the things that have come across, it's interesting, he writes about social science surveys have universally concluded that people claim to be most happy with friends and family or just in the company of others. And they list being with happy people, having people show interest in what I say, being with friends, and being noticed as sexually attractive. And these are 4 of the most common activities that are listed. And the first 3 are somewhat controllable. Being with happy people, you have the opportunity to kind of just disengage with people who are always unhappy. I've done that in my life. Having people show interest in what I say. That can be actually more difficult because, to tell you the truth, most people don't care about postural restoration or the things that I'm really interested in, which tend to be more intellectual. But in the past 3 months, I've been doing postural restoration and fitness discussion groups with another gentleman in New York City, and that's been fun. And we've had, between 8 and 10 attendees each Saturday morning, and it's been amazing. People want to hear what I have to say. They're looking for help. So that's another way that I get into flow. So you can find interest groups that you can spend time with, and that's another way to increase your happiness. Being with friends, it's always important to have friends. Better to have friends that you have interests, that you share interests with. I have different groups of friends for different activities. I'll have PRI people that I know, and then dance people that I know, and then a couple of friends from high school still, with whom I don't really see that often, and they have no interest in either of those things, which is fine. But being noticed as sexually attractive. Now this one, obviously, this is a big one for a lot of people, and that definitely goes back, for me, teenage years. I think as teenage boys or girls, you put a lot of your self-worth in what the other sex or the same sex thinks of you, or finding you attractive. And unfortunately, that carries into adulthood for a lot of people. And when you're in the fitness industry, and pretty much the whole fitness industry is on Instagram these days. And Instagram is just really a show for beautiful people. You look at these very attractive people who, of course, a lot of this stuff is airbrushed and, it's not reality a lot of times. And they'll have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of followers simply because of what they look like. And this goes with trainers. A lot of trainers, so-called trainers, they are putting up just pictures of themselves and saying, buy my programs so you can look like this. And I know someone who really doesn't. I don't criticize anybody. It's a hustle. You have to make money. But I wouldn't say this person really knows anything about training. She's very attractive. She has a lot of followers, and she's constantly saying, oh, how do I, people ask me all the time how I look like this or this or this. And so she lists, her workouts and stuff like that. But I also know that she's had, and this is her prerogative, she's had a lot of plastic surgery. She's had her breasts done twice, nose job, tummy tuck, and some other things. So if she was being completely honest, she'd mention those things. But the problem is people that are watching don't know that, and they think that she's like that because of her workout, and that's just not the truth. And I remember there was a documentary called Bigger, Faster, Stronger, something along those lines. And they showed an example of a male fitness model, and he dieted down to get into that shape for the cover shoot. He was on steroids, and they still photoshopped him. They made his deltoids bigger because they said they weren't big enough. And, this guy's in phenomenal shape, and he's on steroids. But other men, such as myself, well, not at the time of this movie, but when I was younger, would look at that and be like, oh, if I don't look like that, I'm nobody. The girls will never like me. And so I just think I really enjoy working out and training, but it's really not for how I look. I've been able to kind of divorce myself from that whole line of thinking that having a better body is going to make me more attractive to girls. Maybe it will, but it doesn't really matter to me because I know it doesn't really lead to any long-term happiness. And I've seen, as a trainer, I've just seen too many people getting way too caught up in what they look like, and they're miserable. And these are people in really, really good shape, because there's always going to be someone that's a little bit in better shape than you, that's a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger deltoids or biceps. You're never satisfied with your body, and that's really one of the big points of Buddhism, is that the body always disappoints us, and we're always looking for more and more and more, and we're just never satisfied. And in the long run, we all get old. The body will disappoint us. My body has failed me for most of my life. It's ironic, at 41 years of age, I feel the best I've ever felt, but for most of my life, I was usually in pain. And so I've been at war with my body for a long time. Not anymore, thankfully. So, working out is great. I love exercise, but I would always recommend to people that they do it for other reasons rather than just to look good. The science is really interesting. Go on a gluten-free diet. I did that all this summer because I am gluten sensitive. I got a genetic test, and my body changed. I dropped so much water weight. I've never had such definition in my body as I did over the summer. And I just found it really interesting. Again, didn't change my life in any way, but it was just really interesting to see how much water our body will hold on to depending on what your diet is. So again, most of what you see out there is not real. And there's no point in putting too much emphasis on your physical body, on your appearance, because it's never going to make you happy in the long run. People get old, and all these people who are on Instagram, they're replaceable. As they get older and someone younger has the better body, they'll be replaced. So you can't you can't put too much of your self-worth in your looks and in your body, because again, it will ultimately fail you. So develop intellectual interest in working out. Enjoy how things change, but don't get too caught up in the results, because again, in the long run, we get old.